So some of the things we will do that, when you're going to school, your parents don't have to worry about the school fees. They don't have to worry about the books. They don't have to worry about the uniforms. So all of us are equal. When the leadership is shaped when you're young, you get to understand what you're getting yourself into. And I wish you all the best. I want to see you as a deputy president in your school. All right?
Yes. Thank you. Hello. Welcome to Playground Chat. I'm your host, Miriam Bonnet. Together, I'm here with our guest, Billan Okoth, MP aspirant of Mathare. Billan, tell us more about yourself.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate. So my name is Billan Okoth Ojiwa. I come from Mathare. I'm the founder of the Billan Foundation in Mathare, and currently running for the MP seat in Mathare Constituency.
How do you feel vying for the MP seat? Is it challenging?
For me, I think because it is not challenging, but it's also challenging. So running for the seat, for me, I'm enjoying because I want to bring change. So when you want to bring change, there's a drive inside you. So that drive inside me, keeps me going. But it's challenging because, coming from Mathare and trying to run for a National Assembly seat, the expectations are high. Most of these seats are reserved for the old guards when you retire. So as a young person, you see the way nimekonda sana. Yeah, so that is the challenge that I am facing. But all in all, I think I am doing this for the coming generations, and you are one of them. So that is the fire that keeps me going.
I vied for the deputy president seat in our school.
How was it?
It was hard.
It was hard. Did you campaign?
Yes.
Did you give bribes?
No.
Not even sweets?
No.
Oh wow. And did you win?
No.
Why? Because you didn't give sweets?
No. I think I didn't win because the person who I was beating up against was very popular in the school. He's very known.
Very known. Do you consider running again?
Yeah, I do.
As the president or the vice president?
As the vice president.
As the vice president. All the best, all the best. Yeah, I think when the leadership is shaped when you're young, you get to understand what you're getting yourself into. And I wish you all the best. I want to see you as a deputy president in your school.
So, what are you going to do when you're in the parliament that faces children?
So, thank you. That is a brilliant question. I think the kids or the children need to know what our plans are because Parliament is a house where we make laws. So the laws that governs this country mostly are made in Parliament. So what I am going to do, we already have existing policies that are made in Parliament, that were made in Parliament, but over time things changes. The children that were there when we were growing up and the children we have today are totally different. What you need are different from what we needed then. So my plan is, one, I don't want you to inherit the debts. Debts are deni. Countries borrow from other countries, and when we borrow, we commit generations. Like in 20 years, in 30 years, in 40 years, people are going to pay for those debts. So you're going to pay for a debt that you are not part of when the government was borrowing. So I'm also going to make sure we have children-friendly policies. My organization, I've been giving uniforms to children in primary schools. So if you go to rural schools, for example, children are still going to school with uniforms that have torches at the back. Yeah, inaitwa torch. Ingine zinaitwa video. So what I want to do, because education is very key, that is a foundation that when you're given, you can survive anywhere. But we can't just be giving out a blanket description of education. If you look today, you know, we have free education, but the quality of that free education is not up to standard that myself and other parents prefer to take our children to private schools instead of public schools. There are children in very local schools that go to school with those to touch. So some of the policies that we can do, because that reduces the confidence of those children, it leaves them at a disadvantaged position. So they are starting from a disadvantaged position. So some of the things we will do that, you know, when you're going to school, your parents don't have to worry about the school fees. They don't have to worry about the books. They don't have to worry about the uniforms. So all of us are equal. If you look at the different areas, if you go to the slums, for example, you're not able to get the playgrounds for children. When we were growing up, there were playgrounds everywhere. So I would look at policies where children have to be children until you become adults. Right now, we are pushed to be in spaces and to start thinking as adults instead of enjoying the childhood. So those are some of the policies that I will put in place.
And how are you planning to help children do the healthcare, pharmacies, chemists? How are you going to help them who are suffering? The parents can't afford to take them to the hospitals to get better care.
Yeah, if you look at our healthcare system, the Jubilee government, the government we're in now, wanting to introduce what we call the universal healthcare. So universal healthcare works in different countries. It's unfortunate that it did not work for us here. And you get a lot of parents every single day on Twitter, on Facebook, they're posting the pictures of their children asking for help because they're supposed to go for surgeries, they're supposed to go to the hospitals, and the parents are not able to support that. So I think it is not fair that a few are able to get that because they have money to support that, but the majority of Kenyans are not able to get that. If you look at the money that we lose every day as a country into corruption, into people coming up with crazy deals, are able to fund some of that. And developed countries have what we call universal healthcare. That when you're sick, you're able to go to any hospital and get treatment. And by that, we empower our doctors so that when you grow up, you want to be a doctor. But if you see the doctors in the streets every day asking the government to pay them well, it demoralizes people, the children who want to be doctors. We have facilities. If you go to Kenyatta Hospital, which I've gone to several times, if you look at the situation in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the medical supplies that we have there, it is not so encouraging. So those are some of the things that makes a country to be called a country. When you're able to feed your people, treat your people when they are sick, and protect your people when there's security. Those are when everybody feel comfortable.
I heard that you're helping children in public school with tablets. How is it going?
If you compare the level of exposure in our local schools and especially public schools with the private schools, most of the private schools have what we call the ICTs. So you are introduced to computers, you are introduced to, they call codings early enough. So what I've been trying to do is to try and bridge that gap. So during the COVID-19, for example, a lot of children from established schools, private schools, were able to attend Zoom classes, so they were able to continue with their education. But if you look at the schools in the slums or informal areas or even in the rural areas, because one, the parents doesn't have, it's called, how do you call them? The phones that are enabled to use the data, enabled phones, that they can have such classes. they were just sitting home. They were just doing nothing. So what we've done with our center is we've introduced digital learning. So digital learning is that these children have access to tablets. So tablets meaning now they become computer literate early enough. They are able to send emails early enough. They are able to connect and even Google some of the things that they're taught in school that they don't understand. The children are able to own the tablets. They were also able to, get access to buy school-related things using the points that they gain from the tablet. So anytime that you log in, that you do certain questions or engagements within the tablet, you're able to get points. So if you get 1 million points, you own a tablet. So that one is also to encourage them to learn. But if you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, you can still, redeem the the points. We call them the smiley points. You can redeem the smiley points, buy books, buy uniforms, buy school-related stuff.
There's been issues of children being electrocuted because of illegal power connection. How are you planning to solve these issues?
Yeah, for me, I think one of the biggest challenges we have, especially in informal settlements, are illegal connections. So this happens because of illegal connections. So I have had a conversation with an engineer from Kenya Power a couple of weeks ago. And if you look at Mathare now, there are some parts of Mathare that are in total darkness because Kenya Power came and took their transformers and said, we can't keep up. But my plan is this. Most of these illegal connections are done by the people we call cartel. We don't know them by names, but we know them as cartels. So my plan is, first is to get rid of the cartels. The best way of getting rid of cartels, because people pay for those power. They connect it illegally, but every month you pay 100, 200 or 300 for the supply. But that money don't get to the Kenya Power. And when Kenya Power is punishing people, they don't punish the cartels that get the money, they punish everybody.
Yes.
So this would be my genuine thought. And I shared it with the engineer, but he didn't like it. But I think this can work. First of all, get rid of the cartels. And how to get rid of the cartels is to give the people the power for free for 2 years. For the next 2 years, you don't have to pay. So the Kenya Power connects do the legal connections to everyone for 2 years for free. The cartels will get an alternative things to do. Once you've done that, you monitor everybody and their consumption. And because if you look at the income of the people in informal settlements, and maybe where I live right now, are different, totally different. So you don't expect them to pay the power the same. So what we do is try and subsidize. After those 2 years, you try to subsidize the power bills.
How are you planning to make Nairobi safe for children after elections?
Yeah, I think that is a big question. I think for me, because my area of focus right now is Mathare. How I'll make children safe, one, is making sure every child is in school. When every child is in school, it is safe because we see schools as safe havens for children. It is very rare to get somebody going to attack children in schools. But when they are on the streets, it is easy for people to attack the children. But I also have friendly places for children. We have libraries, mobile libraries. A friend of mine in Angola has what we call the bus center. So he has converted the old buses into libraries where children can learn. For me, I want to have those idle planes at Wilson Airport, brought to our our slums and converted into libraries, into safe spaces where children can go study, children can go play games, because it's never just studies all the time.
How are you going to solve issues with fire incidents?
So if you look at, I've been to Morocco, and if you look at the units, the houses that are built for the people, they say the underprivileged people, you'll never get a fire outbreak. But if you look at our houses, you can be good taking care of your family, but the next door, the negligence from the next door contributes to you losing your things. So hopefully for Mathare, we can start small and build units, even if it's a single room, units that the people can move in, and we are sure even when there's a fire outbreak, it cannot spread to the next door. Yeah, and it's not something that, you know, Billan is coming up with. We've seen them work in different countries. So if we are intentional about it, it can also work in our country. You know, and having fire station, I don't see the need why having a fire station in the middle of the city, where for them to leave and come to Kibra, they have to encounter so many jams. I don't know how we think. If we can have fire stations close to our areas where we usually have the fire outbreaks, it's easier. Whenever there's a fire outbreak, there'll be 2, 3. We are able to manage it fast. Have our young people here. There's so many young people who would love to be part of taking care of our communities, trained. So even before the firefighters get to the place, there are young people who are there trying to help solve the problem.
We were in Kajiado, a part of Kajiado called Bisil. So when we were there, my mom had engaged some parents for like a meeting inside a church. She was talking to them about helping their children who are going through drug phases. And she was telling them how they can engage with their children so they cannot get being involved in these drugs, selling drugs, using drugs. And we had a person who was like part of healing from using drugs. When he was young, he used to use drugs, take a lot of drugs. He tried going to rehab, then he went back to drugs again. And it was really hard for his parents because they didn't understand why. And my mom was trying to help them understand and get them to be with the children so they cannot feel that part which they are not getting from their parents that gets them involved with drugs. So how are you planning to help with children with drugs as part of the government in the streets when they sell drugs, they use drugs? How?
So, you know, that's a very touching story, and it's so unfortunate that, you know, in the streets, mainly children are used to sell drugs. You know, there's somebody somewhere that is gaining from that. There's somebody somewhere who is seated somewhere. The children do the business because the children can't access drugs by themselves. There's always somebody, a drug baron somewhere. So it is unfortunate, but because you've seen a lot of even our high schools being burnt down, and we are blaming it into drugs. It means the children can access drugs. The government has intelligence of who sells drugs. The government, these children are able to tell us who are behind the drug businesses. So what we're going to do is do a serious crackdown on who are behind the drugs. So the children are just secondary to the primary problem. The primary problem is making sure that the children cannot access the drugs. But even those who have accessed the drugs, let's have rehabilitation centers where they can get rehabilitated. But I also throw this to the parents because, one, all of us love our children. And if we love our children, we should be able to understand our children. We should be able to know when there's a behavioral changes in our children. So I would encourage parents to be close to their children so that whenever they're going through a phase, they're able to understand and help early enough.
They are like bright students, bright children, but the problem is they can't access proper education, proper things. They are not able to learn what they can because maybe funds, school funds, like other things that just they don't get the opportunity to do more, but they are very bright. How do you help these bright children?
Yeah, very brilliant question. One, I have a case study. So one of the top students for Mathare in 2014, the best student, was supposed to go to Alliance Boys High School, which is the best schools, one of the best schools in the country. And the mom could not afford that. So we came to rescue the child or the boy when he was almost going to a day school. You know, that it demoralizes the child, it demoralizes the friends, demoralizes the students who are the same students who are in the same school. So what I did personally was to make sure that the boy went to Alliance High School. Right now he's doing engineering at the University of Nairobi. And I think that is just an example of many brilliant students or bright students from different parts of the countries who are not able to access the schools. So one, we talk about free education, but education is not free. But we have to be intentional about the bright students, because the future of this country, the policies, the people who will help us build good roads are those bright students. So for me in Mathare, what I say, I want to have conversations with companies. I want to have conversations with organizations that are doing businesses in Mathare. And all our bright students that are going to national schools should get full scholarship, so that their role is just to study. So I'm working on, having a conversation once I'm elected with Superloaf, whenever they bring their bread in Mathare, because we consume the bread, they make profits. How do they also support the community? By making sure that our students that are supposed to go to national schools get full scholarship. It will be a partnership, so that they also, once these students finish their high school, when they're going to universities, they can be interns in the same companies, in the same organizations. So for me, especially Mathare, I want to be intentional that making sure that any child that will go to a national school, that is supposed to go to a national school, join the national school and get a full scholarship. I'll encourage you to, put more effort. This is nice for you. And I said, we'll keep this interview. So in 20 years, you'll interview me when you're working for CNN or a big media, or even make this a big platform. So I'm looking forward to this and a brighter future for you.
Thank you
for
very
hosting
much.
me. Yeah.
You're welcome. This is the end of our show, Playground Chat. I've been your host, Marian Bonne, this week. Thank you very much.